Nuzlocke University presents 5 beginner-friendly tips to get better at Nuzlocke. And as you guys know, I am the best Nuzlocke ever, and I have never lost a run, ever. So I will be able to determine if these are actually good tips for beginners, like you guys. Give me the pro tips.
Hello and welcome to Nuzlocke University. Today we're going to be talking about 5 easy ways you can get better at the Nuzlocke challenge.
Tell me how to get better at Nuzlocke.
Now, I've said this before, but I think it's always a good idea to include this disclaimer at the start of these types of videos.
What's your disclaimer?
I don't consider myself to be one of the best Nuzlockers in the world.
Well, I do, so we're going to judge you ruthlessly, all right?
I don't play super difficult ROM hacks or crazy, deathless rule set challenges, anything.
Well, I do, so I am an authority figure on the topic, and I will judge your beginner tips as such.
Like that. I do love Nuzlocks, and I play a lot of them, usually with hardcore rules, but what I really enjoy is writing and talking about Nuzlocks. I have my own website, Nuzlocke University, where I write articles, tier lists, guides, tips, stuff like that about the Nuzlocke challenge. So check that out afterwards for more content like this.
Absolutely go do this. If we're going to rip this man's content, at least go visit his website, chat.
Anyways, with that said, let's get into the video.
Let's get into the video.
So the Nuzlocke challenge is a lot of fun, but it's also famously challenging for new players. And the first question that most new players ask after learning the rules and trying them out for the first time is, how do I get better at Nuzlocke? And that's the question that we're here to answer today.
How do I get better at Nuzlocke?
So here are 5 of the quickest ways for new or novice Nuzlockers to improve their skills and begin that long process of mastering the Nuzlocke challenge. And if you're an experienced Nuzlocker, I still think there's some good reminders in here for you too, so don't click off just yet.
He sold me. He sold me. I am not a novice at this. I'm a bit experienced, as one would say. But apparently this is still good for us.
So number 0.
This is good. This is good for you, chat, because y'all fucking suck at Nuzlocke.
Oh, it's a bonus tip, if you will.
Oh, bonus.
We're going to talk a little bit about XP and how you should approach grinding in your Nuzlocke. Now, for most players who have experience with the Nuzlocke challenge, they use something called level caps, and we very commonly use what's called the rare candy clause to allow us to bring our Pokemon up to the appropriate level cap for that gym.
Yep.
I've made a whole other video about the rare candy debate, so you can check that out if you're interested.
Cool.
But I just bring that up to say that, if you're not using level caps and the rare candy clause, then the absolute number 1 tip, and for today it's going to be our bonus tip, is to grind Pokemon XP. Right? If you enter a battle under-leveled, you are doomed to fail. And the best thing that you can do to immediately get better at your Nuzlocke is just to level up all your Pokemon by 2 or 3 more levels. So anyways, let's get that out of the way first, and let's get into now our 5 tips for actually improving at Nuzlocke beyond just increasing the level of your Pokemon.
Good tip. Very good tip. Chat, take notes. Salsa the Lotad is a beast. Honestly, even a level 10 Lotad could probably be fine against Roxanne's entire vanilla gym. But make sure you're at the level cap. Take advantage of those level caps. Good reminder, chat. Good reminder.
So, tip 1 is to use online resources to research tough sections of the game before you go into a battle.
Very true.
So the first thing you can do to get better at Nuzlocke is just to research and improve your knowledge of the game. Even if you've never played a Nuzlocke before, or if you're trying a certain version of Pokemon for the first time, you can give yourself a huge advantage by using online databases like Cerebi or Bulbapedia to research the teams of challenging gym leaders or trainers before you go into those fights. This way, you can
We do that all of the time. I have literally been studying Renegade Platinum videos and Renegade Platinum documentation. There are so many videos on all of these classic ROM hacks that you can absolutely find videos, if you're not all about the reading, of people explaining good strategies for these games.
Avoid being surprised by tricky moves on your opponent's Pokemon, and you can build your team to be ready for those tough challenges.
That Earthquake is a good call out.
You can also look up other things like the locations of wild Pokemon to help you.
I still have yet to find an encounter blocking for Renegade Platinum.
Find the best encounters, as well as to see where the important TMs and other items can be found. And both of these things can help give you an edge and help you build a strong and balanced team. I think some players, when they're getting started, feel kind of guilty about doing this, and I really don't think they should. I mean, some people choose to play Nuzlocke blind, and that is absolutely a valid way to play through a game to make it harder for yourself. But if you're new or you're
I usually have to do blind runs just because I'm that good, but chat, you guys should do research. You guys should do research.
Trying to get better at Nuzlocke, then I think there's absolutely no shame in doing some research, making sure you know what you're going into in every battle. And I think if you're trying to get better, you should be using all the tools at your disposal to help you improve. And the number one thing you can do to help yourself improve is to increase your knowledge of the game you're playing.
Very true.
So that's tip number 1.
Do you think Kobe Bryant didn't study film? Do you think that Joe Burrow doesn't watch countless hours of this week's opponent's defense so then he could figure out the weakness in the defensive scheme to get Jamar Chase the ball? Any sports people in here? Brother, you did blind runs because you can't read the research. No, I do blind runs because I'm just that talented, and it's not because I couldn't find the documentation.
Research the battles before you go into them. Now, number 2 is one of the classic mantras of the Nuzlocke community.
The classic mantra of the Nuzlocke community, there has to be, don't truck, never wipe, pants stay brown.
And that is play around the crit.
Oh, that also, that's also true. That's also true.
Or to expand on that a little bit, you should expect critical hits and other forms of bad luck, and you should prepare for them.
Yeah.
So,
plan around the worst case scenario, so then you have the ability to steer.
Losing a Pokemon to a poorly timed critical hit is an experience that pretty much every Nuzlocker can relate to.
This image is triggering. I cannot believe that he put this on screen. This is a triggering. You needed to put a content warning, honestly, because my God.
And new players have a tendency to write these deaths off as bad luck. But the truth is that with smart play, these are almost always preventable. If you have a good plan going into every battle, you should never need to rely on dodging crits to win. So how do we avoid
Bazooka? Babazuka base name.
Losing Pokemon to critical hits and other bad luck? How do we actually do this?
Yeah, how do I?
Well, we can't actually stop them from happening. So what we have to do is factor them into our.
Actually, if you have shell armor, I poked myself in the eye. But you can stop them from happening if you have shell armor.
Plans and play around them so that we can limit their impact when they do happen.
That's true.
The simplest way to do this is by just always assuming the worst case scenario. Assume that your opponent's attack is going to critically hit, assume your attack is going to miss, assume you'll hit yourself in confusion, and so on. And always consider that and let it guide your decisions. If a critical hit is going to knock out your Pokemon, switch out. If you can't afford to miss an attack, you need to avoid moves with low accuracy. The general rule to remember here, the little mnemonic you can use, is if in doubt, switch out. Because honestly, the truth is that over a long challenge like the Nuzlocke, critical hits aren't bad luck. They are guaranteed to happen eventually, and good players will play around them and they'll factor them into their game plan.
Exactly. And me being a good player, I always play around the crit. I have never lost any Pokemon to a poorly timed crit that I didn't account for. And you can't find any examples of me losing a run to a critical hit that I didn't plan for. And you shouldn't try to find them. Crit. Cue the montage? No montage, because you cannot find any possible scenario where I've lost a Pokemon to a crit where I didn't account for it. This is guaranteed Ice Beam if it has Ice Beam left. If it has Ice Beam left, this is guaranteed Ice Beam. That's its last Ice Beam for sure. That's his last Ice Beam 100%. No! Fuck! Oh, 7, little guy. Small dick strat, to be honest. No, it was not a small dick strat to play around the crit. Yeah, you plan to lose to the crit. Yeah, exactly. I know that I'm going to get crit, and I choose to not switch out. That's what good Nuzlockers do. They accept the loss. You become jaded. Tactical sack. Exactly. I wonder if he's going to talk about tactical sacks as like a legitimate tip.
So that's tip number 2, is to expect critical hits, plan for them, and play around them.
The one thing that is based though, that I feel like people could fall into is like, even though Thunder has 120 base power and you're never going to hit the 70% Thunder. you will always hit the 30% miss on Thunder. You know what? The snipe. Just use Thunderbolt with 80% or with 100% accuracy and 80 power. Because you just two-shot it and you're dead, and you're good, and then you miss 2 Thunders in a row. That's also why like Aerial Ace is such a good move for like double team Pokemon, so you can always hit them. That was actually a good tip, is play around the crit, sure, but also keep in mind like move accuracy and such. So good portion of that tip.
Now tip number 3 expands on this a little bit.
Okay.
And it is to end battles as quickly as possible whenever you can. So we've just finished talking about how you should expect bad luck and prepare for it. But you know how you can limit the amount of bad luck that you're going to face in the first place?
Fewer turns.
It's just to fight shorter battles.
Exactly.
So how do we do that, right? I mean, every trainer has a certain number of Pokemon. We can't reduce that. Well, think about this. If a battle lasts 5 turns, that's 5 chances for your opponent to land a critical hit, inflict a random status condition, dodge your attacks, something like that. But if that battle instead lasts 10 turns, they get twice as many chances to screw you over with bad luck. That's double the opportunities for bad luck to go against you. And over the course of hundreds of battles throughout your Nuzlocke, that adds up to a lot more bad rolls of the dice. Often, for novice players, battles will last longer than they really need to because we overthink. We get excited, we watch people like Peachel, Drax, Flygon HG who are doing these super...
This literally is what my brain is when we're planning fights. And then as soon as we get into fights, all of this goes away. I swear. From the Avengers, he's a pro... Drax? Wait, isn't Drax from the Guardians of the Galaxy? I didn't know he Nuzlocked. That's pretty cool.
Challenging runs. Yeah, we watch them do these fancy pivots, these clever AI manipulations, and then we bring that back to our own runs and we end up overcomplicating things, right? Sometimes we're looking for this crazy pivot play where we go through 3 different Pokemon to bring in the perfect tech to 3-hit KO our opponent's Pokemon safely, when in reality, the safe...
This is so true. This is so true. Click surf 5 times. No, I need to flawlessly pivot through pre-Pokemon so I get 2 Intimidate encounters and dodge, and then I get the immunity, and then I safely get to 3. No, just click surf 5 times. You win.
Safest play would just be back to 3-hit KO our opponent's Pokemon safely.
Just click it.
When in reality, the safest play would just be to put in our starter and click surf or flamethrower 5 times. Right? Because this ends the fight quickly and simply, which means less turns for bad RNG to rear its ugly head. So that's tip number 3. Whenever you can, end battles as quickly as possible. Don't overthink things.
I will agree with this point, very much so. Not overthinking is how to improve at 80% of games. That's true. The only scenario in which this is not a good tip, though, is if you don't have a reliable way to end the fight quickly, it does behoove you to meticulously plan out stall strategies while keeping the crit and bad luck in mind. But this is something that I should do more often, honestly. I am the guy here. I am like, no, I need to pivot through the Intimidate into the immunity so then we get a free switch in on this and then we get the free Oko. God, that was so easy. Oh my God, it's so brilliant. When I should just click the super effective move 3 times and then we win. Or like imagine dude uses Sandicag and double team. Yeah, exactly. The Juan's Kingdra is like a perfect example of that. I did actually the winning Nuzlocke, the winning Emerald run did have the double teaming Kingdra on Juan's team. Crit, Ice Beam, Torkoal, and that's how Torkoal did die. But other than that, there's never been a scenario where I lost a Pokemon to an unnecessary crit. But this is very true and something that I don't actively think about. So yeah, end your battles faster so you roll the dice less.
I'm going to talk more about the wider, bigger strategy.
No, I'm cutting it out of the video. Don't worry.
Strategy of your Nuzlocke overall. And so number 4 is that the order of your encounters matters.
Yes.
Now this only applies if you're using the duplicates clause. And if you don't know what duplicates clause is, I'll put a little reminder on screen. But since our recent Nuzlocke survey showed that 95% of players do use the dupes clause, I feel pretty comfortable including.
That's crazy. 503 people took the survey in 2022. I don't know what dupes clause is. I've never or almost never played with dupe clause. I sometimes play with dupe clause. Almost everybody always plays with dupes. That's interesting data.
Including this. So why does it matter what order that you visit the different routes, catch your Pokemon? Well, if you're using the dupes clause, by visiting certain routes and catching certain Pokemon first, you can actually remove those Pokemon from the encounter pool on other routes, which makes it more likely, or sometimes even guaranteed, that you'll find a specific Pokemon that you want on the later route. So
This is what I messed up in the winning run. I didn't catch a Zigzagoon or a Lanoon on a prior route, and therefore I lost my only guaranteed chance at Tropius for the Tate and Liza gym, which we ended up beating anyway. But at the time, I thought I had ruined it because I had messed up in counter routing. And if you go back and you watch all of the older runs of Pokemon Emerald before I started doing encounter routing correctly, we would die to Norman, we would die in so many weird spots because it's like, oh, well, I didn't catch the right Pokemon, I guess I'll just try to fight. And it's like, no, you should do the encounter routing. And then once I started encounter routing, almost every run got to Tate and Liza. It's a good thing it didn't really matter, but it's funny how we didn't need it. Yeah, I'm a no dupe. I feel like dupe clause gives you too much control. I like the game to fuck me over with RNG repeatedly. I mean, it is what it is. Did a Soul Link a Fire Red Leaf Green with someone once, and he had a team of 4 Rattata for Brock. Pretty based. I mean, the problem with no dupes is like, let me just go get 6 Gyarados and fish at 6 different locations and get 6 Gyarados. And then it's like, pretty good. Right?
That you'll find a specific Pokemon that you want on a later route. So let's look at an example to explain this a little better.
Okay.
So one really good example is in Pokemon Platinum, where one of the game's best encounters, Gible, which evolves into Garchomp, of course, can be in...
We banned that, though, because we're gamers and we don't need Gible. But this is a good example.
Platinum, where one of the game's best encounters, Gible, which evolves into Garchomp, of course, can be encountered in the Wayward Cave B1F. Now, Gible only has a 20% chance of appearing, so it's not very likely that you'll get it if you just run into Wayward Cave. But if the player waits to enter the cave until they've already caught all the other 4 possible encounters in the other areas, which is Bronzor, Geodude, Onix, and Zubat, then at that point, Gible is the only valid encounter left, and you now have a guaranteed chance to add it to your team. Now, this doesn't just apply to Pokemon Platinum. All the games are full of tricks like this, which a smart Nuzlocker can use to give themselves better odds of finding and catching the best Pokemon for your team. So while the first 3 tips were kind of focused on how you can improve your decision-making in battle, one of the things you can do to improve even more is to go into battle with better Pokemon. And this strategy, which we call encounter routing,
just get better by just getting better Pokemon, loser. Just fucking catch the good Pokemon. You fucking idiot. Which is true. Encounter routing is so helpful.
Is to go into battle with better Pokemon, and this strategy, which we call encounter routing, is the easiest way to do that. And this goes along with our first tip, which is to do more research, because the only way that a new player knows which order they need to visit the routes in is if they research which Pokemon appear where, and then you can make a plan for how you are going to route your encounters to guarantee that you'll be able to add the strongest Pokemon to your team.
Or just have every single encounter in Pokemon Emerald memorized and be able to recite from memory. Then you don't have to do research. But also, you probably want a life and you probably want friends and maybe a partner, and you can't spend that much time memorizing every encounter in Pokemon Emerald. So maybe do more research, chat. Don't commit it to memory. Just rely on Bulbapedia. And no, I don't need no goddamn pseudos.
And finally, our last tip for today, number 5, is to have a backup plan for every major battle.
Steering!
So if you're a good Nuzlocker, you're going to enter every battle with a plan. But then what happens?
Jesus died on the cross for you to memorize Emerald. And by golly, was it a good sacrifice for Jesus, huh? Jesus was a tactical sack, okay? And don't you forget that.
If that plan gets derailed by a badly timed critical hit, a misplay, or some other unexpected turn of events that you didn't anticipate. Well, in these cases, having a backup plan can be the difference between losing 1 or 2 Pokemon and wiping the battle completely. So before every battle, it's important that you take a look at your available Pokemon, review what your plan is for that gym, or team leader, or whatever difficult fight you're going into, and ask yourself these 2 questions. Number 1, how could this plan possibly fail? And number 2, if it does fail, what is my backup plan?
Bro got crit by the crucifix. Is you crazy? That is insane. Had to switch to Jesus so that he could get the knowledge off. Exactly. We had to switch into Jesus, so then Jesus took the crit from the Romans, so then we could move forward in society. I wish you followed this last tip. What do you mean, I wish I followed this last tip? He's just explaining steering.
Plan possibly
I'm just bad at steering.
fail. And number 2, if it does fail, what is my backup plan? So there's lots of different options here. Your backup plan might be a second Pokemon with a type advantage you can take over in case something happens to the Pokemon that you thought you'd sweep with. Maybe it's stalling an opponent with Leech Seed and status conditions if you can't knock it out quickly. I mean, the exact plan will be different.
You should probably go into a battle knowing you're going to Toxic Stall, but
for every battle, but it's really important that before any dangerous fight, you spend some time thinking about what you'll do if things start to go sideways. This is not only helpful because it gives you, obviously, a backup in case things go poorly, but it also helps you to stay calm and avoid panic during the battle, and can really save you from making poor decisions and having an early wipe. As a beginner, or as a novice, you won't always play perfectly, but by having a solid backup plan, you can limit the impact of your mistakes, and give yourself the best possible chance of succeeding even when things don't go as planned.
That is genuinely a very good tip. Get better at steering, chat. And if you're not good at steering, have a dedicated, thought-out backup plan. Toxic as a backup strat is scary. It is a little scary because it does stall the match longer, which isn't great. Like he said in his first tip, I think that even I could benefit from maybe doing a little bit more plan B planning instead of so much plan A planning. But all good tips. All good tips.
So there you go. That covers 5 basic tips that any Nuzlocker can use to improve their Nuzlocke skills. I think this will be super useful for beginner and novice players, and even for more experienced players. I think this is a good reminder of some of the things that we should always be keeping in mind. Now, there's obviously a lot more that we could talk about. We may make another video in the future talking about pivoting, about more advanced repel manipulation and encounter routing, or even about manipulating trainer AI, which is a valuable skill in really high difficulty ROM hacks and other Nuzlocks like that. But
all good things to know. Whatever game that you're going to Nuzlocke, you just have to research the trainer AI. That's just like a necessity.
But for today, I think we'll leave it here. So thank you everybody for listening. If you're interested in more Nuzlocke content like tier lists, guides, articles, think pieces, then check out my website, Nuzlocke University.
Chat, go check out Nuzlocke University. This has some good stuff for you beginners. You beginners in chat, you need these. Research ahead of time. Good tip. Play around the crit. Good tip. Finish fights fast. Good tip, unless you are planning for a stall strategy from the beginning. Encounter routing. Genuinely one of the most important things I learned while doing the Emerald Nuzlocke was encounter routing. And have a backup plan. Also, a good strategy. Learn to steer. And if you're not going to learn to steer, crash in the right direction. That is a good tip, Midnight. But this is great. Bet I subscribed. Yeah, this is good. Also, the editing was really good. There was a lot of really helpful graphics, some good memes. He wasn't flashing stuff on screen all the time. As a video editor, this was good and very, very well done. Bet I subscribed. I will also subscribe. This is cool. And also, if you're on YouTube, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're on Twitch, make sure to follow if you haven't done so already.